Chapter 11. Cobb snored again that night. Quillerin, waked at 3 o'clock by the pain in his knee, took some aspirin, and then listened to the muffled snorts coming through the wall. He wished he had an ice pack. He wished he had never moved to Junktown. The whole community was accident-prone, and it seemed to be contagious. Why had he paid a month's rent in advance? No matter. He could stay long enough to complete the Junktown series and then move out, chalking it up to experience. Beware of prospective landladies who give you homemade apple pie. Yes, that was the smart thing to do. Concentrate on writing a good series and quit snooping into the activities of a deceased junk dealer. Then, Quillerin felt a familiar tingling sensation in the roots of his mustache, and he began to argue with himself. But you've got to admit there's something dubious about the setup in Andy's workroom. So he was murdered. So it was a prowler, attempted robbery. A prowler would whack him on the head and then run. No, the whole incident looked staged. Staged, I said. Did you hear that? If you're thinking about the retired actor, forget it. He's a harmless old codger who likes animals. Coco took to him right away. Don't forget how that avalanche slid off the roof at the appropriate moment. One of those icicles could have brained you. As for Coco, he can be remarkably subjective. He rejected Mrs. Cobb simply because she squeaked at him. Still, it would be interesting to know how she wrenched her back 2 months ago. Now you're grabbing at straws. She doesn't have the temperament for murder. It takes someone like Mary Duckworth, ice cold, single-minded, extremely capable. You're wrong about her. She can be warm and compassionate. Besides, she would have no motive. Oh no, she had quarreled with Andy. Who knows how serious it might have been? Undoubtedly, they quarreled about the other woman in his life. Still no motive for murder if she loved him. Perhaps he was threatening to do something that would hurt her more deeply than that. But Mary insists he was kind and thoughtful. He was also dogmatic and intolerant. He might be doing his duty again. That kind of person is a classic heel. I wish you'd shut up and let me go to sleep. Eventually, Quillerin slept, and in the morning he was waked by 2 hungry cats playing hopscotch on his bed and miraculously missing his sore knee. Cats had a sixth sense, he noted, that prevented them from hurting the people they liked. He gave them a good breakfast of canned crab meat. Later, he was applying cold, wet towels to his knee when he heard a knock. He took a deep breath of exasperation and moved painfully to open the door. Iris Cobb was standing there, wearing her hat and coat and holding a plate of coffee cake. "I'm on my way to church," she said. "Would you like some cranberry twists? I got up early and made them. I couldn't sleep." "Thanks," said Quillerin, "but I'm afraid you're trying to fatten me up." "How does the rug look this morning? Did the cream leave a spot?" "Not bad, but if you want to send it out and have it cleaned, I'll pay for it." "How's your knee? Any better?" "These injuries are always worse in the morning. I'm trying cold compresses." "Why don't you have dinner with us around 7 o'clock, and then you won't have to go out of the house? Cece can tell you some interesting stories about Junktown," she added when Quillerin hesitated. "We're having pot roast and mashed potatoes. Nothing fancy, just potatoes whipped with sour cream and dill, and a salad with Roquefort dressing, and coconut cake for dessert." "I'll be there," said Quillerin. As soon as he was dressed, he limped to the drugstore, being unable to survive Sunday without the Sunday papers. At the lunch counter, he choked down 2 hard-boiled eggs that were supposed to be soft-boiled, and gave himself indigestion by reading Jack Jaunty's new column. Jaunty, who was half Quillerin's age, now had the gall to write a column of wit and wisdom from the Delphic heights of his adolescent ignorance. The newsman spent the rest of the day nursing his crippled knee and poking at his crippled typewriter. And his ailment activated the Florence Nightingale instinct that is common to cats. Every time he sat down, Yum Yum hopped on his lap, while Coco hovered nearby, looked concerned, spoke softly, and purred whenever Quillerin glanced in his direction. When 7 o'clock arrived, whiffs of beef simmering with garlic and celery tops beckoned the newsman across the hall to the Cobbs' apartment. Cece, shirtless and shoeless, sat with one leg thrown over the arm of his chair and a can of beer in his hand. He grunted at the arriving guest, a welcome more cordial than Quillerin had expected, and Mrs. Cobb turned joyous eyes on her tenant and ushered him to a stately winged chair. "It's Charles II," she said. "Best thing we own." She pointed out other treasures, which he admired with reserve: a stuffed owl, a wood carving of an adenoidal eagle, an oil portrait of an infant with a bloated 40-year-old face, and an apothecary desk with 24 tiny drawers of no use to anyone but an apothecary. A radio on the desktop pounded out a senseless, ceaseless beat. Mrs. Cobb, playing the fussy hostess, passed a platter of tiny meat turnovers and served small glasses of cranberry juice cocktail on plates with lace paper doilies. Cece said, "Who are you trying to impress with this fancy grub?" "Our new tenant, of course. I wouldn't slave over Parashki for a slob like you," she said sweetly. Cece turned an unshaven but handsome face to Quillerin. "If she starts buttering you up with her goodies, watch out, mister. She might poison you, like she did her first husband." His tone was belligerent, but Quillerin caught a glint in the man's eye that was surprisingly affectionate. "If I poison anybody," his wife said, "it will be Cornball Cobb. Would you all like to hear something interesting?" She reached under a small table and brought a portable tape recorder from its lower shelf. She rewound the reel, touched a green push button, and said, "Now listen to this." As the tape started to unwind, the little machine gave forth an unearthly concert of gurgles, wheezes, whistles, hoots, honks, and snorts. "Shut that damn thing off!" Cobb yelled, more in sport than in anger. She laughed. "Now you know how you snore. You wouldn't believe me, would you? You sound like a calliope." "Did you spend my good money on that?" He got up and hit the red push button with a fist, silencing the recital. But he wore a peculiar look of satisfaction. "I'm going to use this for evidence when I sue for divorce." Mrs. Cobb winked at Quillerin, and he squirmed in his chair. This display of thinly veiled sexuality between husband and wife made him feel like a peeping Tom. Cece said, "When do we eat?" "He hates my cooking," Iris Cobb said, "but you should see him put it away." "I can eat anything," her husband grumbled with good humor. "What kind of slop have we got today?" When they sat down at the big kitchen table, he applied himself to his food and became remarkably genial. Quillerin tried to visualize Cece with a shave, a white shirt, and a tie. He could be a successful salesman, a middle-aged matinee idol, a lady killer, a confidence man. Why had he chosen this grubby role in Junktown? The newsman ventured to remark, "I met the 3 weird sisters yesterday," and waited for a reaction. "How do you like the redhead?" Cobb asked, leering at his plate. "If she didn't have her foot in a cast, she'd chase you down the street." "And what do you think of our other tenant?" Mrs. Cobb asked. "Isn't he a funny little man?" "He puts on a pretty good show," Quillerin said. He told me he was a Broadway actor. Cece snorted. Nearest he ever got to Broadway was Macy's toy department. His wife said, Ben loves to play Santa Claus. Every Christmas, he puts on a red suit and beard and goes to children's hospital wards. They must pay him for it, said Cece. He wouldn't do it for free. One day, she went on, there was an injured pigeon in the middle of Zwinger Street with dozens of other pigeons fluttering around to protect it from traffic, and I saw Ben go out with a shoebox and rescue the bird. Quillerin said, he has a repulsive thing in his shop, a stuffed cat on a dusty velvet pillow. That's a pincushion. They were all the rage in the gay 90s. Can he make a living from that dismal collection of junk? Or does he have a sideline too? Ben's got a bundle salted away, Cece said. He used to make big money in his day, before taxes got so high. Mrs. Cobb gave her husband a startled look. The man finished eating and pushed his dessert plate away. I'm going to scrounge tonight. Anybody want to come? Where do you go? Quillerin asked. Demolition area. The old Ellsworth house is full of black walnut paneling, if I can beat the other vultures to it. Russ says they've already grabbed the stained glass windows. I wish you wouldn't go, his wife said. It's so cold, and the ice is treacherous, and you know it isn't legal. Everybody does it just the same. Where do you think the dragon got that Russian silver chandelier? She makes like she's so high class, but you should see her with a crowbar. Mrs. Cobb said to Quillerin, Cece got caught once and had to pay a heavy fine. You'd think he would have learned his lesson. Oh, heck, it won't happen twice, her husband said. Somebody tipped off the police the other time, and I know who it was. It won't happen again. Let's take coffee in the living room, Mrs. Cobb suggested. Cobb lighted his cigar, and Quillerin lighted his pipe, and said, I understand Junktown doesn't get much cooperation from the city government. Mister, you'd think we were some kind of disease that's got to be wiped out, Cobb said. We asked for better streetlights, and the city said no, because Junktown's due to be torn down within the next 10 years. 10 years! So we tried to put in old-fashioned gas lights at our own expense, but the city said no dice. A whole light pole's got to be 40 feet high. Cece has spent days at City Hall, said Mrs. Cobb, when he could have been earning good money on the picket line. We used to have big elm trees on this street, her husband went on, and the city cut them down to widen the street. So we planted saplings on the curb. And guess what? Chop, chop. They widened the street another 2 feet. Tell Quill about the signs, Cece. Yeah, the signs. We all made old-time signs out of wormy wood, and the city made us take them down. Unsafe, they said. Then Russ put hand-split cedar shingles on the front of his carriage house, and the city yanked them off. Know why? They projected a half-inch over the sidewalk. Mister, the city wants this neighborhood to decline, so the land grabbers can get it, and the grafters can get their cut. Now we're planning a Christmas block party to bring in a little business, said Mrs. Cobb, but there's so much red tape. You got to get permission to decorate the street, and if you want to play Christmas music outdoors, you get a permit from the Noise Abatement Commission. If you want to give door prizes, you get fingerprinted by the Gambling Commission. If you want to serve refreshments, you get a blood test at the Board of Health. Nuts! Maybe the Daily Fluxion could expedite matters, Quillerin suggested. We have some pull at City Hall. Well, I don't care one way or the other. I'm going to go scrounging. I'd go with you, said the newsman, if I didn't have this bum knee. Mrs. Cobb said to her husband, Don't go alone. Can't you get Ben to go with you? That lazy bugger. He wouldn't even carry the flashlight. Then ask Mike. He'll go with you if you give him a couple of dollars." She looked out the window. "It's starting to snow again. I wish you'd stay home." Without any formal goodbyes, Cobb left the apartment, bundled up in a heavy coat, boots, and knitted cap. And after another cup of coffee, Quillerin rose and thanked his hostess for the excellent dinner. "Do you think the Fluxion could do something about our block party?" she asked as she accompanied him to the door and gave him a snack for the cats. "It means a lot to Cece. He's like a little boy about Christmas, and I hate to see his heart broken." "I'll work on it tomorrow." "Isn't he wonderful when he gets wound up about City Hall?" Her eyes were shining. "I'll never forget the time I went with him to the city council meeting. He was making things hot for them, and the mayor told him to sit down and keep quiet. Cece said, 'Look, buddy, don't tell me to pipe down. I pay your salary.' I was so proud of my husband that tears came to my eyes." Quillerin went back across the hall, unlocked the door, and peeked in. The cats jumped down from their gilded thrones, knowing that the waxed paper package he carried contained pot roast. Yum Yum rubbed against his ankles, while Coco made loud demands. The man leaned over to rub Coco's head, and that was when he saw it. On the floor, near the desk, a dollar bill. It was folded lengthwise. He knew it was not his own. He'd never folded his money that way. "Where did this come from?" he asked the cats. "Has anyone been in here?" It had to be someone with a key, and he knew it was neither of the Cobbs. He inspected the typed sheets on his desk and the half-finished page in his typewriter. Had someone been curious about what he was writing? It could hardly be anyone but the other tenant in the house. Perhaps Ben doubted that he was a writer. It had happened before, and sneaked in to see for himself, dropping the dollar bill when he pulled something out of his pocket, glasses or a handkerchief perhaps. The incident was not really important, but it irritated Quillerin, and he went back to the Cobb apartment. "Someone's been snooping around my place," he told Mrs. Cobb. "Would it be Ben? Does he have a key?" "Goodness, no! Why would he have a key to your apartment?" "Well, who else could get in?" An expression of delight began to spread over the landlady's round face. "Don't say it, I know," said Quillerin with a frown. "She walks through doors.